Hello, that's Mike. Hello. Hello. Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He is a New York best-selling author and author of several books, no other than Mr. Michael Hingson. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Mike, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure, thanks very much. I am Mike or Michael Hingson. Either way works. I respond to both.
Yes.
I have been blind my entire life. And on September 11th, 2001, I was working in the World Trade Center on the 78th floor of Tower 1. I had opened an office for a company the year before. I have been blind, by the way, my whole life. So I was in the office with some early guest arrivals, as well as my guide dog, Roselle, and a colleague from our corporate office, David Frank. And we were there at 8:45 in the morning when the aircraft hit the building, and the building kind of moved. It flexed in one direction, and then it came back. And as soon as it did, as it was moving, I went to the door to my office. Not a lot of good it would really do when you're 78 floors up if the building falls over, but I grew up in California where we had earthquakes. So I learned early in life building moves, go to door. Anyway, so the building moved and then it came back vertical. And as soon as it did, I went into my office and I met my guide dog, Roselle, coming out from under my desk. I took her leash. I brought her around. I told her to heel, which meant to come around and sit on my left side, which she did. And then the building dropped straight down about 6 feet. It did that because tall buildings are made to flex in windstorms and even if they get hit by an airplane. And the expansion joints went back to their normal configuration. So that's why the building dropped. Um, as soon as it did, my colleague David saw the fire outside our windows and he said, "Oh my God, Mike, there's fire and smoke. We got to get out of here right now. We can't stay here." And I kept saying, "Slow down, David." And our guests started moving toward the door and then they stopped because they heard me tell him to slow down and stop. And he finally said what I always call the big line: "You don't understand. You can't see it." Well, I did understand. It wasn't what I wasn't seeing, it was what David wasn't seeing, which was I had a dog next to me and I knew what she was like when she was afraid because she was afraid of thunder.
Mhm.
But she was just sitting next to me, yawning and wagging her tail, going, "Who woke me up?" Well, eventually we did get out of the building, and I became a keynote public speaker after that. I've been traveling and speaking actually since October of 2001, but I just say officially we started at the beginning of 2002. So I've been a speaker for, about 23 years now. And the fact of the matter is that we wrote Thunderdog in 2010, published in 2011, to tell the story and to start to teach people about blindness and what being blind is all about. And so that's why we wrote the book. And it actually was one week a number one New York Times bestselling book. So it's been very visible. It still is very visible. It tells people a lot about what blindness is and what it isn't. We try to give people a completely different impression about blindness than they have because most people think if you're blind, you can't do anything. And that's clearly not true. I survived because I learned what to do in an emergency in the World Trade Center and put all of that knowledge to use to get me and other people out. And that's what we talk about in the book.
Mr. Michael Hingson, thank you so much for inspiring us. So, what is Thunderdog about, and how does it combine personal memoir with historical events?
Well, Thunderdog is about me and about me working with Roselle. It's a story about teamwork. The title of the book is Thunderdog, the story of a blind man, his guide dog, and the triumph of trust at ground zero. And it's all about trust. But it isn't just, oh, I trust the dog to lead me around because guide dogs don't lead people around. Guide dogs guide. That is to say, The job of the dog is to make sure that we walk safely. It's my job to know where to go and how to get there. And so I have to give the dog and should give the dog directions when I want the dog to go left and right and so on and encourage the dog. I'm the team leader and the dog wants me to give it direction. The dog wants me to be in charge, but the dog also, in this case, Roselle, knows that I'm going to listen to her or him, as my current guide dog is a male, and we're going to work together. We're a team. It takes a while to build up that trust. I think it takes a year to really develop the trusting relationship that a blind person and a guide dog develop if they truly develop that bond that helps them work extremely well together. And that's what we did, and that's what I do with every guide dog. So I also, as we're walking, for example, down the street, if the dog stops at a at somewhere, I'm going to check, and I can tell if it's a curb to go down and cross the street because I know by the traffic sounds and other things like that. But the bottom line is, if I tell the dog then to go forward and the dog doesn't go, I am immediately going to assume there's a reason the dog isn't going. And it's
Yes.
a process we call intelligent disobedience. The dog has the right to disobey if it thinks it's going to put us in danger to do what I want. So the two of us learn to work together, and that's what it's really about.
So, Mr. Michael, how does your book describe the atmosphere inside and outside the World Trade Center during 911,
Well,
nine 11?
I think I'm describing pretty much what it does, what it did. We didn't have a lot of panic on the stairs where we were. There were a couple of times that people almost lost it. At one point, David, my friend, did. And he shouted, he was next to me. He said, Mike, we're going to die. We're not going to make it out of here. And I just said, stop it, David. If Roselle and I can go down these stairs, so can you. And then what he did, because he wanted to put his mind on something other than what was going on, he said, I'm going to walk a floor below you and shout up to you what I see on the stairs. And I tell you that because as we went down the stairs, like when I was at the 45th floor, he was at the 44th floor because he did walk a floor below me. And he shouted up, Hey, Mike, I'm at the 44th floor. This is where the cafeteria for the Port Authority is, not stopping. The reason I mention that is because David did that all the way down the stairs. He shouted up to me. And by doing that, in reality, I think he prevented a lot of people from panicking because anyone within the sound of his voice could hear that somewhere on the stairs, someone was okay and they were shouting to someone that they were okay. And so I think that that helped keep a lot of people focused and not worrying about what was going on. Did he need to do that for me? He did not, but it helped him. But I think it helped a lot of other people as we went down the stairs because they had his voice to focus on. And as long as they could hear him, they knew that somewhere, someone on the stairs above or below them was okay.
Certainly. So, Mr. Mike, how does Thunderdog illustrate the power of trust between person and their service animal?
Well, with everything that I've been describing, we work together. We're a team, and the whole point of the book is to talk about us as a team and to talk about the whole idea of trust and teamwork and working together to accomplish a task. In this case, getting out of the World Trade Center, going down the stairs, and then later running away from Tower 2 when it collapsed. So we worked at it, we work at it, and every day I work with a guide dog. It's all about a team approach. Each of us has a job to do, and each of us has to respect the other person's job to make sure that we do it right.
So, what lessons about courage and resilience can be learned from your experience?
Well, I think the reality is any of us at any time might find ourselves in an emergency or an unusual situation, possibly a very dangerous or tense situation. And all too often, fear paralyzes us, it blinds us, it overwhelms us. We haven't learned how to control fear. And if there is anything that Thunderdog teaches and my latest book, Live Like a Guide Dog, teaches, it's that you can learn to control fear and that fear is something that can be a very powerful tool to help you stay focused. But you have to learn to control it. And that's a process that people have to learn. And that's what Live Like a Guide Dog is all about. But we also allude to it in Thunderdog. It's all about working together. It's all about knowing what to do and learning what to do in the case of an emergency. Yeah, I never anticipated that an airplane was going to crash into the building when I started learning all about what to do in an emergency in the World Trade Center. But as the leader of an office, I felt it was absolutely my responsibility to be as knowledgeable and as capable as I could be in terms of being able to address any kind of an emergency situation that would come along. And that's exactly why we survived on September 11th, 2001.
Certainly. So, Mr. Michael, how does Thunderdog challenge misconceptions about blindness and disability?
Everybody constantly asks me, "What were you doing in the World Trade Center?" Read the book, you'll learn. I was the Mid Atlantic region sales manager for a computer company. Blind people are as capable as sighted people. We may not use the exact same tools, but we have the same ability to think as people who are not blind. And what Thunderdog is all about is saying, look, in reality, any of us could be confronted by a situation. Any of us can be confronted by challenges. And what we need to do is to learn how to deal with those challenges. And blind people can do that as well as sighted people. That's what Thunderdog's strongest message is.
Definitely. So, in what ways the story highlight the importance of preparation and training in emergencies?
It's all about training. It's all about you. If you are anything that you do, doing it, you need to learn what to do to address unexpected situations. It could be emergencies. You can learn to control your mind. Your mind is a big muscle, and you can learn to control your mind and not let fears overwhelm you. One of the strongest messages that comes out of Thunderdog is don't worry about the things that you can't control. Focus on the things that you can, and the rest will take care of themselves. And it won't do you any good to worry about the things that you can't control because the bottom line is you can't control them. So why worry about them? Because they're out of your sphere of influence. What you should do is focus on the things that you can learn to control or that you can control. And you have to focus on what makes you a better person. Don't worry about what other people are doing unless it affects you, and then you work out the details. But worry about what you can control. Don't worry about the things that you can't, and you'll be a whole lot less fearful in life.
Very well articulated, Mr. Mike. Very well said. For sure, don't worry too much, people. Always be positive. So, how does the book explore the theme of teamwork and interdependence?
Well, again, it's all about teamwork and interdependence. Everything we've talked about today, Thunderdog is a book that validates the whole concept of teamwork and interdependence. Gandhi once said interdependence is and ought to be as much the ideal of man as is self sufficiency. And the fact of the matter is, we all are interdependent on each other. No one is an island that just does everything alone, no matter what they think. We've all benefited from what others have done before us and what they're doing today. And so the fact of the matter is that Thunderdog and my experiences are nothing if not a whole representation of the concept of working together to accomplish a task. And that's what we do.
So, Mr. Mike, how does your background and upbringing shape your ability to handle this crisis?
My parents taught me early on that though I happened to be blind, I could do whatever I chose to do. Doctors told my parents when they discovered that I was blind, they said, send him to a home because no blind child can ever grow up and amount to anything or do anything in society. And the fact of the matter is that my parents said, no, he can do anything he wants and we're going to give him that opportunity. And they did. And they taught me that. They taught me that I have to be responsible for me but I'm not going to be defined by being blind. I'm going to be defined by what I do and what I accomplish and how I behave. And so I learned those lessons early and continue to advocate for those kinds of things today. The fact of the matter is, blindness isn't the problem. The bigger problem is the attitude that most people have about blindness because they're wrong, they have misconceptions, and they don't truly understand what it is to be different, um, and be accepted as being different. And so they can't cope with a blind person doing this kind of stuff, a blind person leading other people out of a building, a blind person having a master's degree in physics, a teaching credential, a blind person managing a company. Blind people can't do that. You have to see to do that, and that's not true. And so that's what we try to get people to understand through the books and through all of the talks that I give. I'm a keynote speaker. I travel the world talking about these kinds of things. And I'm always looking for opportunities and ways to help teach people that blindness isn't the problem. It's our misconceptions about blindness that cause the big problem.
Certainly. So, Mr. Mike, how did your relationship with Rizal evolve or evolve over time?
I think that any person who gets a guide dog starts out with someone who doesn't know them and who they don't know. And one of the things that we learn through Thunder Dog and that I talk about regularly is dogs don't trust unconditionally. They do love unconditionally, but they don't trust unconditionally. But the difference between a dog, generally speaking, and a human is dogs are more open to trust. They don't suspect people of having hidden or bad agendas. They want to trust and they look for the opportunity to trust. So when I start working with a new guide dog, I have to behave in a way that says, I want to trust you. Let's work together to make that happen. And I do that by practicing walking with the dog, giving the dog commands, uh, giving the dog the opportunity uh, to make sure that we're doing the things that we're supposed to do. And when the dog encounters something that it doesn't know how to deal with, it will stop. And essentially, what it's saying is, what do I do? What do you want me to do? And I have to take the initiative, as I said earlier, to be the leader of the team, the leader of the pack to do that. And so, working with Roselle, it was all about developing a trusting relationship, as it is with every guide dog that I get. And that's what we did, and have a lot of fun doing it.
Certainly. So, Mr. Michael, what will be your advice for those people out there who want to write their stories?
I think that they should write their stories. Don't be afraid to write your story. And also recognize that you need to write it, read it, rewrite it, edit it. I love collaborating. I encourage people, if especially they're not really used to writing, collaborate with someone. Get other people to help and let them help shape the book just as you're going to really take the lead in shaping the book because it is your book, it is your story. But tell your story. Everyone has a story to tell. And all too many people just never tell their story. And so what they have to bring to the world is never heard or never read. And that's what we really need to do. So I encourage anyone who wants to tell a story or who has a story to tell it.
Definitely share to the world, people, and stop procrastinating. Share your stories to the world. So, what will be your short term and long term goals in writing, Mr. Mike?
Um, well, right now I'm not working on any writing projects. I am speaking. I just returned from a speaking engagement and I'll be going and doing some more. So I'm thinking about it and we'll see what happens down the line. One of these days it'd be fun to write a fiction book, but I haven't done that yet and I have to learn a lot more. But I suspect that there's more writing in my future.
Please do write more, Mr. Mike, to empower us. So, in Thunderdog, what emotions does the book evoke as you follow Aristole's journey?
Well,
Yes.
I still am amazed that anyone could crash an airplane into a building. Um, I don't believe that this was a religious thing. I think it was a bunch of thugs who decided that they wanted to have their way with the world, but it's not even the way people who are of the Islamic faith behave. They are as peaceful as anyone else. But unfortunately, like with most religions, there are fringe elements, and we do have to deal with that. And so the result is that we do need um, to be observant. We need to be vigilant, not belligerent, vigilant, and
Vigilant, yes.
recognize that if we see something unusual, we need to speak up and deal with that as well. But I think that all of us have ability, and we really need to focus on that as much as we can.
Certainly. So, what role does faith play in your story and your ability to navigate adversity?
Faith is absolutely a part of my life. I believe in God. I heard God's voice on September 11th, and we talk about that in Thunderdog. I heard a voice in my head as clearly as your listeners hear us now. And the reality is that I believe that there are a lot of opportunities to strengthen and be more resilient for all of us with faith, and to understand that in reality, um, we are given choices and we have to make choices. And sometimes, if we're not making good choices and we don't care, we may have to, at some point, be held accountable for those choices with God. But the reality is, I think that faith is an extremely important part of my life and an important part of all of us.
Certainly. So, Mr. Michael, before we wrap up our discussion, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season with my co-host, one of his specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto, Mr. Alessandro Panantoni. So please do listen to our latest episode. We read all our letter senders all over the world. So, Mr. Michael, how does Thunderdog inspire readers to rethink their own challenges and fears?
Well, I think the whole story challenges people to rethink what they believe. They have the choice to accept it or not, but the facts are that it happened. The facts that we talk about in Thunderdog did occur, and people can accept them or not. I hope that they do. Uh, and of course, people can reach out to me at michaelhingson.com, or you have my contact information. I know you're going to put all of that up, and I think that
Yes.
it's valuable for people. If they have a question, they can reach out, and I'll be glad to answer their questions. I also have a podcast. It's called Unstoppable Mindset, where inclusion, diversity, and the unexpected meet. And inclusion and diversity are put in that order because diversity typically doesn't involve disabilities. If you're going to be inclusive, you have to involve disabilities or you're not inclusive. It's an all or nothing situation. No such thing as partially inclusive. It's not acceptable. But the unexpected is everything that doesn't have anything to do with inclusion or diversity, which is most things. And so we we do the podcast. Actually, episode 309 was published yesterday, which would have been the 11th of February. And the reality is that I think people um, are learning that by listening to it or watching it, that they can tell stories. We want people to realize that they're more unstoppable than they think they are. And so the podcast helps them with that, I hope.
Definitely, it helps and inspire. So, Mr. Michael Hingson, New York Times best-selling author. Thank you so much for your time. And can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope that they will. They're available wherever books are available. So please go out and get the books and read them, and love to hear what you think. And give them reviews on Amazon and at Reddit as well. But please not only read the book, but review it.
Definitely. Let's support Mr. Michael Hingson because if you support him, more empowering books to come. So, Mr. Michael, thank you for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Welcome, people. See you soon.